Good afternoon, everybody. I am Pradeep Irakude, going to deliver my seminar on the topic of biological evidences at crime scene. So basically, in this my lecture, I would like to explain the other body fluids which are involved in the forensic investigation. Basically, in a previous lecture, already we is talking about the various types of biological fluids, and I explained already the blood, semen, saliva, uh, sweat, vomit, urine. So these are the different types of biological fluids, and routinely we utilize these biological fluids in the forensic investigation to identify the suspected one or crime attempter. So in the previous lecture, already we discussed about the blood composition, and how this blood act as a evidence for the identification of crime attempter. So in this my lecture today, we are going to discuss about the body fluids other than the bloods, how these body fluids involved in the crime investigation, what are the characteristics of these body fluids, and the different composition of the different body fluids. Dear students, whenever we visit to the crime scene, so at the crime scene, so many different types of questions should arise in our mind. For example, so what happened at the crime site? Who attempt at the crime scene? It is a crime or naturally happen? How many people involved in the crime? So such type of different types of questions arise in our mind when we visit to the crime scene. So the answer of these questions we can answer of these questions given by the various types of body fluids when we analyze in our laboratory and got particular results. So that basic results of the various types of body fluids analysis may give the answer of these questions. Dear students, how the biological fluids important in a forensic investigation? Because these biological fluids play an important role in the identification of blood groups from the body fluids. Basically, in previous lecture or up to this, we already learned about the blood grouping. ABO blood grouping only determined by utilizing the blood. But dear students, when we think like a forensic expert, so we can determine the blood from other body fluids also. And how it is possible? Because in a human population there is a two different types of status. One is the secretor status, and second one is a secretor status or non-secretor status. Basically, the secretor status means what? The person able to secrete the some antigenic molecule, that antigenic which are already present on the surface of RBC. So that ABO antigenic molecule secreted in other body fluids like semen, saliva, urine. So from this, due to the presence of such type of antigenic molecule in other body fluids, we can identify the blood group from the other body fluids also. These body fluids also play an important role in the identification of sex. It is also able to identify whether the body fluids originated from the human or animal. These body fluids also identify the particular specific nature of that body fluids, whether it is semen, whether it is urine, whether it is vaginal fluids, or whether it is sweat, saliva. Basically, the so many different types of fluids secreted by our body. and that secretions are that body fluids composed of the various specific molecules. So when we consider the example of saliva, so definitely saliva or salivary fluid or salivary liquid contains the very specific biochemical molecules. Likewise, when we talking about the semen, so semen also having its own chemical composition. When we talking about the urine, so urine again having a specific compositions, and depending upon the specific composition of this body fluids, we can identify whether it is seminal fluid, whether it is vaginal fluids, whether it is urine. So variety of body fluids we can identify in our laboratory by performing the various types of biochemical reactions or biochemical test. And on the basis of analysis, we can identify the sex, we can identify the origin of that fluid, we can identify the blood groups also, and such type of results we can submit it as a biological evidences in a court. Basically, body fluids in which blood, semen, saliva, sweat and urine can be utilized, and these different types of body fluids we can analyze in a laboratory, and it will help to solve the various types of cases. Basically, each and every body fluids having its own specific chemical nature, and that's why we can perform the chemical as well as the physical methods for the identification of various types of body fluids. Now when we visit to the crime scene, how will you collect the different types of biological fluids or its stain from crime scene? So already in a previous lecture I explained all the possible techniques and methods utilized by the forensic investigator, utilized by the forensic expert at the crime scene, and collect all the different types of body fluids. It may be the dry or it may be the moist one. So the different types of collection methods, preservations and transportation methods already we studied in a previous lecture. So we can go directly on the different types of body fluids. Now first of all, I would like to explain the seminal fluids, because these seminal fluids or semen stain is the most important biological evidences in the various type of cases related to the sexual assault or rape. The semen fluid or seminal stain typically serves at the crime scene by utilizing the alternate light source, because these seminal fluids having a particular molecule, that molecule nothing but propylene, and that propylene molecule able to emit some radiation, that is fluorescence radiations. So whenever we use the alternate light source to search the such type of seminal fluid stain at the crime scene, so if there is a seminal stain or seminal fluid, so that material emit the bluish color fluorescence, and on the basis of that fluorescence we can identify or we can locate the evidences at the material at the crime scene. Now we are going to discuss about the composition of seminal fluid or semen. Basically, semen nothing but the complex connective tissue in which the plasma and cells are present. Now what is plasma? Plasma nothing but the mixture of salt, enzyme, drugs, various types of hormones, antigens and antibody molecule. There is different types of biomolecules present in a plasma. The other component of the semen, this one is the white cells, sperm cells and the pre-sperm cells, and each and every cells again having some antigenic portion. It may be the HLA antigen, it may be the blood group antigen, isoenzymes also present in the cells. So on the basis of that type of markers, yes, for example the isoenzymes also we can use as a biomolecular marker for the identification of semen. Then there is a DNA also present, so from that semen stain we can isolate first of all the cells, and then from that cells we can isolate the genomic DNA, and from that genomic DNA we can develop the DNA fingerprints also. So these are the different type of biochemical composition of seminal fluids or seminal stain, and on the basis of these biochemical molecules, specifically the peculiar characteristics of the seminal fluids. So in the seminal fluid, the acid phosphatase enzymes also may present. So that acid phosphatase enzymes act as a molecular marker or biochemical marker for the identification of seminal fluids or semen stain. Apart from this molecule, there is some antigenic molecule is there, that is a prostate specific antigen or seminal specific antigen. So these antigens also we can utilize for the identification of semen stain. So basically the different glands of male able to secrete the seminal fluids. So the contributed by these different types of glands, testicles and epididymis contribute 5%, then seminal vesicle contribute 46 to 80% component of the seminal vesicle, seminal fluids. There is a prostate glands only present in the male, and that prostate glands also secrete some liquids or fluids, and which is a part of seminal fluids. Then there is a bulbourethral or urethral glands. It is also secretes some fluid, and it's part of the seminal fluids, and it contributes the 2 to 5%. So these are the different types of glands contributed in the production of seminal fluids. Now we can discuss about some test. So very first test utilized for the locating of seminal stain or semen fluid on crime scene, and that is the alternate light source test. What happened? This alternate, when we use the alternate light source or UV light source, so at the crime scene, when we visit to that crime scene and fall the UV light at the crime scene, and if there is any seminal fluid or seminal stain, so that stain part of that material start to emit the blue color fluorescence. So you can observe here, yeah, this one is the very old case in 1940. So this one is the crime scene, and you can observe at the ice crystals there is some purple color or light blue colors fluorescence appear. So under the UV light, this seminal stain able to emit the blue color light, and on the basis of that we can locate this seminal stain and collect the material from the crime scene. Basically for the analysis of seminal fluid, first of all we should identify whether it is seminal stain or not. So for that purpose we routinely perform the two different types of tests. First one is a preliminary test, and second one is a confirmatory test. In laboratory or sometime at the site of crime, we can perform the preliminary test, and that preliminary test nothing but the acid phosphatase test. So basically the acid phosphatase test performed as a preliminary test for the identification of seminal stain. So what is principle of this test? So I would like to explain the principle of this test. This acid phosphatase test basically based on the principle of the presence or absence of the acid phosphatase enzyme. So basically in seminal fluids there is a acid phosphatase molecule, and due to the presence of that acid phosphatase molecule we can identify whether the Q1 unknown stain is a seminal stain or not. So how this test actually work? So the seminal stain containing the acid phosphatase molecules, and we add the first solution in which the alpha naphthol phosphate. So alpha naphthol phosphate is a substrate for these enzymes, and this enzyme catalyze the reaction and remove the phosphate group from alpha naphthol molecule. And then the secondary solution, that second solution containing the azo dye. So that azo blue dye, when we add on the same area, so the alpha naphthol molecule can react with that azo dye and give a purple color. So if the purple color appears, so it is indicated that the given unknown stain is a seminal stain. Why? Because the purple color is appear only in the case of acid phosphatase is there. So due to the presence of acid phosphatase, there is a removal of phosphate, and the alpha naphthol phosphate convert into the alpha naphthol only, and that alpha naphthol may react with the azo dye, a secondary solution, and it give a purple color. So if the purple color, you can observe at the slide, this one is the paper, and on the paper the seminal stain extract we load here. Okay, so then 1 to 2 drops of seminal stain is there, and then we can add the first solution, that is alpha naphthol phosphate, and then add secondary solution, that is the azo dye, and the result is there. So this stain is not a seminal stain, but in the other hand, in this stain there is a acid phosphatase enzymes, and that's why this purple color is appear and indicates this one is the seminal stain. So this one is the preliminary test routinely performed in the laboratory or at the crime scene for the identification of seminal stain. But this acid phosphatase enzymes may also present in other body fluids, and that's why this test is not specific with that of the seminal fluids, and that's why this test considered as a preliminary test. Now this preliminary test, when we give the positive result, or when comes the positive, we go for the confirmatory test, and then confirmatory test we routinely perform in the laboratory, that is antigen based, antigen antibody reaction based. So you can observe at this slide, this one is the kit, that is a PSA kit. So this kit looked like a HIV kit or pregnancy kit, right? So you can observe here there is a T zone and there is a control zone, and this one is the sample loading zone. So the at this way we can add the few drop of stain extract, and then that stain extract with the help of capillary action move toward the control zones. Okay, so at the T region there is a specific molecule coated. So basically this test is based on the PSA. So PSA nothing but a prostate specific antigen. So that prostate specific antigens if present in a seminal fluids, so that prostate specific antigens reach toward the T zone, and already in the T zone we already coated the molecule which is antibody, that is antibody against the PSA. So that's why if your extract having PSA molecule, so that antigen with PSA molecule can react with the antibody PSA, and this due to the reaction in between the PSA and antibody PSA, there is a appearance of pink color line, and if the pink color line appear in a T zone, So the test is positive for the seminal stain or positive for the presence of prostate specific antigen. So this one is the confirmatory test we routinely perform in the forensic laboratory for the identification of seminal stain. Okay, so other than this PSA, we can also use the seminal vesicle specific antigen specific it also. So in place of the PSA, there is a antibody which is specific with that of the seminal vesicle specific antigen. Both the test working on the same principle. Apart from this test, we routinely perform the another confirmatory test, that is a microscopic examination of spermatozoa. So basically, you know very well the seminal fluid contain the sperms also or spermatozoa. So that spermatozoa having a specific structure, so we can identify under the microscope. So the microscopic examination of spermatozoa also considered as a confirmatory test for the identification of seminal fluids. So whatever the seminal stain or suspected stain collected from the crime scene, so we can extract the seminal stain, and 1 to 2 drops of the seminal stain we take on the surface of glass slide and spread it with the help of inoculating needle, and then that we try to dry it and prepare the thin slurry on the surface of glass slide. Okay, so after the preparation of that smear, we fix and then add safrani or crystal violet, allow it to react with the spermatozoa or cellular material present in that smear, and after 1 to 2 minutes, then you can wash the slide with the help of tap water, and then allow it to air dry. After that, we can observe that slide under the microscope. When we visualize that slide under the microscope, so we should search for the presence of spermatozoa. So if there is a spermatozoa is present, so it indicates the given seminal stain is a seminal stain or semen. Now in this seminal fluid or in a sexual assault cases, we can use the reference samples for sexual assault or rape cases from a suspected person. From the suspected person, we can withdraw the blood samples, and from that blood samples we can extract the genomic DNA, and from that genomic DNA we can develop the DNA fingerprint, as well as in seminal fluids there is a sperms, and from the sperm cells we can again isolate the genomic DNA, and from which also we can develop the DNA fingerprint, and we can compare the DNA fingerprint of suspected one and the seminal fluid one, and on the basis of DNA band pattern we can identify who is a crime attempter. Now dear student, we are going to discuss about the one more body fluid, that is the saliva. Saliva also most important body fluids and play a significant role in a forensic investigation, because you know very well in most of the cases there is a bite mark examination. In some cases, in sexual assault cases, you know very well the saliva may present on the genital organs of male or females also, and saliva may present on glass or bottles of beers or cold drinks. So that's saliva used as a evidence, biological evidence, and from that saliva we can again identify the blood group, we can isolate the epithelial cell from that saliva, and then from the epithelial cell again we can extract the genomic DNA, and from that genomic DNA we can develop the DNA fingerprint and match with the suspected one. So that's why this saliva also play an important role in the forensic investigation. So basically this saliva is another biological fluid that occur at a crime scene, and saliva is a biological tissue having two parts, liquid and cell. Basically saliva produced from the salivary gland. Okay, the cell in saliva are epithelial cells and contain the DNA. The liquid part is comprised of salt, drug, hormones, as well as the dissolved protein and enzymes also, and that differ from those present in a semen and blood. And that's why already I explained each and every body fluids having its own chemical composition. Forensically, when we're talking about the saliva, so saliva nothing but the mixture of oral fluids and cells. So in the oral fluids there is the hormones, drugs, enzymes, salt, antigens, antibody. But this antigen antibody very specific with that of the saliva. They are not present in the other body fluids. Okay, specific enzymes also present in the saliva. That is the alpha amylase enzymes, and that alpha amylase enzymes act as a molecular marker for the identification of saliva. In saliva there is a cells also present, and that cells originated from the epithelial cells, and from that cells we can isolate the DNA as well as we can determine the blood groups also. So basically the saliva stain we can identify on the basis of presumptive test and confirmatory test. So on the basis of presumptive test, here also we can use the alternate source of light as a presumptive test for locating the saliva stain at crime scene. So under the influence of alternate light source, the saliva also able to emit the some fluorescence, and on the basis of that fluorescence we can again locate saliva stain. After that, in our laboratory or at the crime scene, we can perform the amylase testing, or we can say the starch iodine assay. So this starch iodine assay is a presumptive test for the identification of saliva. So what happened in the starch iodine assay? Basically in saliva there is a amylase enzyme is present. So in this case, in this test, we add the solution of starch on the stain, or we mix the starch solution into the stain extract. So if stain extract containing the amylase enzyme, so that amylase enzyme can degrade the starch molecule and produce the amylose and amylopectin. And then we add secondary solution, that is the iodine solution, and if the starch is not remain as it is, why? Because amylase enzyme is present and amylase enzymes able to degrade the starch, and that's why there is no any starch molecule remains to react with the iodine. So iodine unable to react with the amylose and amylopectin are the molecule which are derived from the starch, and that's why there is no any color. But if the given stain is not saliva, so there is absence of amylase enzyme, so there is not breakdown of the starch molecule, and starch remain as it is in the solution. And when we add the iodine, so that starch molecule able to react with the iodine and give a purple color. So if the purple color appear, it indicates the absence of amylase enzymes, and it indicates the given stain is not a saliva. But the purple color is not appear, then it indicates the presence of amylase enzyme in a given stain extract, and the result or conclusion is that the given unknown stain is a saliva. If the presumptive test is positive for the unknown saliva stain, so then we can go for the confirmatory test, and that confirmatory test based on the salivary immunochromatographic card. This one is again the immunochromatographic card, like a PSA test. Here also you can observe we load samples, extract sample, and if that sample having a amylase enzyme, so the amylase specific antibody already coated in the T zone. So there is a reaction in between the amylase enzyme molecule and antibody specific with that of amylase, and it give a particular line. So if the T zone and C zone give a line or appear the line in both the zones, it indicates the positive test for the presence of amylase enzyme. So salivary amylase enzymes is present, and it indicates the confirmatory test or the saliva identification. In this way we can analyze the saliva also. If the confirmatory test give the positive result, then we can go for the isolation of salivary epithelial cells, and from that epithelial cells then we can extract the genomic DNA and then perform that genomic DNA utilized for the development of DNA fingerprint. Also from that saliva we can determine the blood group also. You can see here in this slide, saliva may be present at the crime scene, at the neck of bottle, at the neck of glass, cigarette butts. This one is the bite mark. So from that bite mark we can again collect the saliva. So, and this one is the reference of the saliva. So suspected one, from which we can take a saliva swab. One more, another body fluid, that is urine. Urine also play an important role in the forensic investigation. When we are talking about the urine, so urine again consists of liquid and cell. So basically this urine excreted from the kidney. So whatever the wastage material excreted by the kidney, that comes is in the form of urine, and that liquid consists the hormones, drugs and salt, as well as this urine consists the cells also, that again cells originated from the epithelial cells, and some that epithelial cells act as a utilized for the isolation of genomic DNA, and we can develop the again DNA fingerprint from the urine also. This urine again also may contain the sub drug. So if the suicide case is there, so whatever the poisons taken by the individual, so that poisons are the harmful drugs may present in the urine, and on the basis of that urine analysis we able to identify the potentially harmful drugs in the urine, and on the basis of that analysis we can identify the type of crime. So basically this locating of the urine stain on the at the crime scene, it is based on the logic and order, because the urine produce specific order. So on the basis of order we can identify the urine also at the crime scene. Basically here also we routinely perform the two different types of tests, presumptive test and confirmatory test, for the identification of urine evidences. So presumptive test, that is a urea testing. So basically the urea is present in a urine, and that's why this urea test we perform, and this urea test act as a presumptive test. This urine test also, urine evidence is also located on the basis of alternate light source. So weak yellow fluorescence may produce by this urine, dry stain of the urine. So when the ultraviolet ray fall on the portion, fall on the urine stain, so that urine stain able to produce the yellowish color fluorescence, and on the basis of that fluorescence we can locate the urine stain at the crime scene and then collect that material as evidences, as biological evidences, and in the laboratory we can again analyze this urine stain. This one is the one another. If the presumptive test is give the positive result, so we go for the confirmatory test, and the confirmatory test in which we perform the antigen antibody based immunochromatographic card test. Then apart from this urine, semen and saliva, there is some other body fluids also, vaginal fluids, menstrual bloods and sweats. So these vaginal fluids also play an important role in the forensic investigation, specifically with sexual assault and rape cases. So basically the vaginal fluid consists the glycogenated nucleated epithelial cells and acid phosphatase enzymes and other watery fluids. So these vaginal fluids are collected from the crime scene and locating these vaginal fluids at the crime scene by utilizing the alternate light source, because these vaginal fluids also able to produce the fluorescence, but the purple color fluorescence, but the fluorescence intensity of vaginal fluids is somewhat lower than the seminal fluids. So on the basis of that fluorescence we can locate the vaginal fluids at the crime scene, and due to the presence of specific biomarkers in the vaginal fluids, we can use this biochemical test as a preliminary test. So here also we can use the acid phosphatase test as a preliminary test for the identification of vaginal fluids. If we perform the acid phosphatase test, and after the addition of azodine, and if it will take a longer time to appear the purple color, so it indicates the this one is the vaginal fluid, because as compared to the seminal stain, vaginal fluid taking a longer time or appearance of the purple color in a acid phosphatase test. And if it is positive, then we go for the confirmatory test, and that confirmatory test based on the again immunochromatographic test, in which the HBT1 and MUC4, these are the two different types of antigenic molecules. That antigenic molecule mostly present in the vaginal fluids, and on the basis of that antigenic molecule we can again identify whether it is vaginal fluids or not. So when we perform the immunochromatographic chromatographic test, so the vaginal fluid extract, suspected vaginal fluid extract when run, so at the T zone there is appearance of line, it indicates the presence of MUC4 proteins in a given fluid, and it indicates, or we can conclude the given unknown fluid is vaginal fluids. Vaginal fluids play an important role in the to solve the sexual assault cases, rape cases, and some foreign objects may use in the vaginal rape. So in such type of cases we can use the vaginal fluid as a important biological evidences. Apart from this, there is a menstrual blood. So this menstrual bloods also play an important role in the forensic investigation. Why? Because in some situation of the sexual assault cases or rape cases, there is a bleeding in female urinogenital tract. So that whatever the blood is present in a vagina, so that blood is originated from the veins, or it is a menstrual blood. So in which we can again identify whether the blood is menstrual blood or the venous blood. So on the basis of, because the venous blood and menstrual blood again having its own specific compositions, so on the basis of specific compositions, for example in the If it is a menstrual blood, so it consists the blood with lactate dehydrogenase enzyme and glycogenated cells and MMP7 proteins. So on the basis of this lactate dehydrogenate enzyme, and we can identify whether it is menstrual blood or not. And if it is give the positive result, then we can perform the confirmatory test, and again in the confirmatory test we can identify the MMP protein, MMP7 protein. So if the MMP7 protein specific immunochromatic rate it is give positive result, so it indicates or confirmedly we can say a given blood is a menstrual bloods. These menstrual bloods play an important role in the forensic investigation to distinguish the menstruation from vaginal trauma in rape cases. Apart from this, again one more, there is a sweat. So sweat is also play an important role in some cases to identify the suspected one, because the sweat is secreted outside the body, and this fluid secreted by the body due to the presence of sebaceous gland in the skin, and to maintain the body temperature in various conditions. So it basically the sweat consists the salt and sweat specific protein. So on the basis of sweat specific protein we can identify whether it is sweat or not. And then in the sweat some cells also mix, and the same chemical constituents may present in the sweat, and depending upon the perfumes or scent compositions present in the sweat, we can identify the suspected one. Then there is in some cases the vomit also play an important role, because this vomit is not a common type of biological evidence. It's certainly found at the crime scene and can be important because containing cellular material, and from that cellular material we can identify, extract the genomic DNA, and from that genomic DNA we can develop the DNA fingerprint. This vomit also contains the foodstuffs and can tell us something about the immediate eating habit of the person, and that's why this vomits also play an important role in the forensic investigation. This vomit not difficult to find out of a distinctive order, and dried vomit stain have an order dissolving small amount in water and boiling it release order. The enzymatic test for renin enzymes present in a vomit and order test is sufficient for the investigative purpose. So the laboratory will do the appropriate test for the DNA extraction from vomit, and from the DNA extraction again we can develop the DNA fingerprint. So these are the different types of body fluid secreted from the human body and may present at the crime scene, and basically these all the different types of body fluid play an important role in the forensic investigation. So when we visit to the crime scene, so person must have a knowledge what is to be collected from the source, what type of evidences should be collected from the crime scene, and from where to be collected, how much to be collected, means the quantities, and how it is to be collected, that is a procedure. So a proper material from a proper site in a proper quantity by a proper method we should collect from the crime scene, then we can analyze in a laboratory and we come out with the strong result, and that result we may submit into the court as evidences and help to solve the various types of cases. Thank you very much.